That's good, eh? To this lecture called Make Atlanta Straight Again. I'm going to do about maybe an hour or so of the actual lecture itself, and then I'll take Q&A. If y'all could, keep the noise down as much as possible, and if you have a cell phone, please put the phone on vibrate. Please, let me put mine on vibrate. I appreciate it. Also, too, if y'all could not live stream, because we have our live stream here. All right, I appreciate that too. Y'all can take videos or record yourself personally if you want to, but please no live streaming of the actual event. I appreciate your cooperation. I want to big up all the camps of ISUBK that came from all over North Carolina, Chicago, Philadelphia, St. Louis, California, Hawaii, yeah, California, he won't let me forget, and for all the people from Atlanta that came out to support. And I believe there's some people that came from Tennessee, just everybody that supported, because it shows me that y'all understand the endangerment of our black men and women. And when I say black men and women, I'm talking about our youth all the way up to the elderly. There's a lot of information that I have to bring out, and the lecture is called Make Atlanta Straight Again. And the reason why I titled it that is because this is damn near like the haven of AIDS for black men and women. This has been that haven, but as we all know, homosexuality is not just in Atlanta. You got DC, you got New York, you got every black community where pastors, preachers, and predators exist that constantly turn our young men and women into homosexuals, and they believe that they're born that way because of the event that happened to them, so they lead that lifestyle, then they in turn become predators as well. So even though it's titled Make Atlanta Straight Again, I'm going to bring out some history of homosexuality itself, and I'm going to show you how you're not born that way. I'm going to show you tactics that they use to make you feel empathy, one of them being comparing gay rights to civil rights, or gay rights to slavery, which is one of the most disrespectful things that they could do to us, because gay people have already won. I don't know if y'all know it or not. Like, gay people straight up and down won. There is no movement that they no longer need. You can be gay, you can get married, you can do whatever it is that you want, and if you speak against homosexuals, it's damn near an atrocity. But when you speak against black people, it's okay. They still fight for so-called equal rights. So there is nothing that black people have actually gained or won. Even if you take Atlanta, you got this strip here that is full of black businesses, but at one time the whole city was black businesses, until the white man had enough of that. Like Black Wall Street is commonly talked about, but Atlanta was also a black mecca as well, of wealth. And then they got destroyed by the so-called white man. Give me the next slide. We're going to play, some of these are going to be videos. Some of them may play the whole thing just as an intro. Some of them may stop short. So you can play this. I think this is a video here you guys can play. Hey, can you hook the sound to your box or the speaker that was supposed to be Salaki for that.
Motherfuckers be gay in Hollywood, you never fucking expect it. They be having these big ass mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little room. I ain't been famous that goddamn long. I'm excited as a motherfucker to be at the mansion party. You looking at all the goddamn rooms, and you fuck around and look in the wrong room and shit. Hey, come here. Is that two niggas kissing?
You don't see the pool? No, I won't there.
Anyway, young on me and say kind of world star shit. Yeah, Birdman fucked me. He fucked me in the ass for the deal. I'm gonna be real. Birdman fucked me for the deal, man. I suck Birdman dick.
Rappers right now that as far as the album, to break down the barrier.
I apologize for that. Hey, for time's sake, you can skip it, and then I'll just talk. You can give that to him.
Little beat. That's the name.
This video is just showing different scenes. The video is just showing, you can skip that, I'm sorry. As normally when we teach, we usually have a reader for biblical scriptures, but we don't have that kind of time, so I'll break the scriptures down directly. So this is Revelations 11:8, when it says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the city, in the streets of that great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt." Now, they don't have a name of America in the Bible, so you can only go by the prophetical nature of it. So when it says that great city, you got to think about what city would have the spirit of Sodom and the spirit of Egypt in there. The spirit of Sodom, y'all know, comes from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, which was about homosexuality. So this great city in the future would also have that same spirit. There is no place on the planet Earth that embodies homosexuality like America does. When we say embody homosexuality like America does, when you stand against homosexuality, they will ostracize you. I'll give a common example. Anybody familiar with Donnie McClurkin? Right? He used to be a homo, right? Then he said God cured him of homosexuality. And the minute that he said God cured him of homosexuality, he could not perform at the Martin Luther King event that they had commemorating him. They immediately ostracized him because he actually told the truth. Like, being a homosexual is a lust like any other lust on the face of the planet. It's no different than murder, stealing, or anything like that. And the only thing that can cure us is the laws of God. And no matter what religion or something that you're in, if there's no moral compass that could guide black people, will always remain destroyed. So I've seen many of them. I've seen Christianity, I've seen Islam, I've seen Kemet, I've seen 5%ers, I've seen Buddhists, I've seen all of them, but none of them give a moral compass that can't be changed. Like, these laws that we follow of God were written 5,000, 6,000 years ago, and they ain't changed. And the proof that they work is we're #1 in AIDS because that's a blood disease. You are not supposed to be penetrating another man's behind like that, and when you do, we become #1 in AIDS, even though we're only about 10 to 12% of the population. And even though there's more white homosexuals than there are blacks, they're not #1 in AIDS at all. And if you roll it off of age, you can take cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, you can take every disease, and you'll find that we're #1 in it, even though we're lower. So Sodom is one notification. Why does it say spiritually Egypt? Egypt is a Greek word. It's not even an Egyptian word. The name Egypt would be Tazaryach in Hebrew. So why is it saying Egypt? Because Egypt is a Greek word which just simply means bondage. And so this great city would be a place of bondage. So now you have to think about it. Well, who are the people that have been in bondage in this great city? That's us. Like, even though we get to walk around with a so-called sense of freedom, we are really living in a prison house. So you could call it, like, those that are actually in prison are in prison. This would be like a halfway house for blacks and Hispanics. Because the only way for us to be free is to be away from our oppressor. So that's the first thing. Did y'all fix the sound? All right, give me the next slide. So now approximately 3.7% of all African Americans identify as LGBT. Now the reason why that 3.7%, it might seem kind of small, but that's 3.7% out of 10% of the population. So it's really not that small. And it says with 84,000 African Americans living in same-sex couples, roughly a third of those couples raising children. So now if you have homosexuals raising kids, how would those kids feel about homosexuality? Would they think it's wrong, or would they think it's right? It's no different than if you take a family of drug dealers. If you take a family of drug dealers and let that kid grow up under that family, would he ever think drug dealing is wrong? No, because his family is raised that way. So if you're raised up looking at two men your whole life, you'll never believe that because you love the people that raised you. That's a part of the problem. It says black individuals who identify as LGBT are disproportionately young and disproportionately female, because we always focus on the men, but our women are just as much under attack. The women are under attack once they remove the man out the household. That's why Mark 3:27 says the only way to enter into a strong man's house is to remove the black man out the house. Like, the one thing black women got to understand, there ain't no greater strength or power you can have than the man that you love and the man that's in your house. And when he's not in that house is easily destroyed, because a woman is not a defender. As much as she may have to be in some situations, or as much as she tries to be, she's not equipped to actually defend a family. The man is equipped to defend the family. That's why the feminist movement targeted black women. That's why child support targets black women. It may seem like it targets black men, which it does, but on the initial point, it targets black women. Because once you move the man out the house, then it's easily to seduce the woman to raise her sons feminine, because they become afraid as well. Now, it says, Proverbs 14:12, it says, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Like, they push it like it's comfortable to be homosexual. Like Tyler Perry gets all the awards. And only movies with an Oscar you can get is if it's have a homosexual type of vibe, or either serving a so-called white man. Give me the next slide. This is Atlanta's zip codes with the highest HIV rates. It says that according to the CDC, the South has the greatest number of people from the disease and dying from it, and that in Georgia, 613 people died from AIDS in 2012. Emory researcher Patrick Sullivan used to oversee HIV. He said black men who have sex with other men in Atlanta are 3 times more likely to become HIV positive than whites. And I've only been in Atlanta for 3 days, and I'm about ready to run out of Atlanta. If it wasn't for a couple of the sisters that's in Atlanta, I would literally want to run, because I ain't been nowhere. We went to the mall. I've been to the gym. We was on where we was at, Tazaryach. What's that spot we went to Friday night? Edgewood. We was all out there, and you see homosexuals everywhere. If I don't see homosexuals, I see black women with ass implants, and I don't understand. I didn't know black women needed ass implants at the rate that they get. It's a lot. It says, and then it says that is despite having a similar number of sex partners. And this is how you know God is more right than we could be, because Leviticus 20:13 says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lie with woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. So that blood disease, which is called AIDS, this is how you know the Lord is right. Like, we get mad, and this is something black people may not understand, but the Lord is right to kill us with AIDS. Straight up. He's right that we get AIDS and we die, because he gave us the remedy to never die from AIDS. Just don't have sex with another man, and you will not get AIDS. And in Atlanta, Tazaryach told me something else. He told me that straight women are willingly dealing with homosexual men because they can't find a regular man in Atlanta. Well, y'all see all these brothers in here, for all the sisters, y'all can go ahead and grab y'all one if y'all want to. You understand? Deuteronomy 28:16 says, cursed shalt thou be in the city. Atlanta is a cursed city right now because of the way homosexuality is pushed. And we're going to go through some of the, I guess, agendas that they push, or tactics that they use to turn us into homosexuality, because everything is visual for us. When you watch your TV, when you listen to your music, when you listen to everything, it's all to give you a visual presentation of what you're willing to accept. Even if you take murder, for example. Y'all know why we have no issue with murder? Our young kids don't have an issue with murder? Video games and movies. Because you can go and shoot and kill all day as a child, murder don't mean nothing to you. Because you can watch TV all day, murder don't mean nothing to you, because it's something that you see every day. So it's the same thing with homosexuality. On every media outlet, they push your homosexuality so much to where it just becomes an acceptable thing. Give me the next slide. Is homosexuality a mental disease? Now, y'all notice, y'all ever heard the term homophobia? You ever heard that term homophobia? I'm going to give y'all 3 definitions real quick. It says phobia is an extreme or irrational fear or aversion of something, like arachnophobia if you're scared of spiders, as an example. Right? That's why I use arachnophobia, an extreme or irrational fear of spiders. Then when it comes to homophobia, instead of it being a fear, which is what a phobia is supposed to be, they then change it into the dislike or prejudice against homosexual people. You notice they removed the term fear from that. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not afraid of homosexuals, but it's a disgusting way of life, and we're supposed to speak against it. So when they call you a homophobe, just tell them I'm not afraid of homosexuals, I just don't want them around, and treat it as it's right. And then they use black people's pain, like slavery is used against black people when they talk about gays and equating it to the same thing. Give me the next slide, please. Homosexuality, again, a mental disease. It says, according to the American Psychiatric Association, until 1974, homosexuality was classified as a mental illness. You know how you know homosexuality is a mental illness? A child that said they was born that way. If you see your child playing with, as women, if you see your son playing with your shoes, would you still let him play with the shoes? Like, would you still let him play with the shoes? You wouldn't let him. Because He don't know that it's wrong to do that, but you know it's wrong to do that. Now, if you let him wear the shoes, what is he going to in turn think? That these shoes is okay. Now, if I could wear my mama's shoes, I could wear my mama's dress. If I could wear my mama's dress, I could wear my mama's lipstick. I could wear her wig or mascara or whatever it is, and then I'll in turn become a woman. That's a mental disease. Now, we can understand, we can understand that concept, but if your child is stealing as a kid, which he also don't know stealing is wrong, until you teach him that stealing is wrong. Now, we'll teach him about stealing and murder, but there's an agenda to push that if your child is gay, then there's something in the spirit that made him be born that way, and you can't fight that. That's the only thing that we're not supposed to fight, being homosexual in this place. So it says, the DSM listed homosexuality as an abnormal behavior under 302 sexual deviant. This is until 1974, if you was a homosexual, it was classified as being a sexual deviant. He said there was little or no suggestion with the psychiatric community that homosexuality might be conceptualized as anything other than a mental illness that needs to be treated. That's why Donnie McClurkin, and I use him as an example, he lived a homosexual lifestyle. And he found the one cure that's the only cure for homosexuality, and that's that Bible. That's the cure for any ailment that blacks and Hispanics have. That is the cure. When y'all want to know how do we fix our condition, we have to start serving the power that put us in this position in the first place. When I'm saying in this position, meaning as the children of Israel, Deuteronomy 28:1 said if we keep them commandments, we'd be number one on the face of the planet. So you don't have to worry about equality. But if we break them commandments, we would be on the bottom. That's why we're on the bottom. That's why nobody can give us a solution as to why our condition is the way that it is. Nobody can say, well, if you go into Kemet, they'll tell you this. If you go into Islam, they'll tell you this. If you go into Christianity, they'll tell you this. But when you go into the Bible, you can get a clean-cut answer as to why we are destroyed and in the position that we're in. It says homosexuality was, I'm sorry, I'm going to drop here. It says what's noteworthy about this is that the removal of homosexuality from the mental illness was not triggered by a scientific breakthrough. Because we're going to find out who is really the most violent individuals on the planet, because faggots are the most violent people on the planet. And don't let nobody tell you otherwise. And I'm going to pull statistics, you know, I wouldn't just tell you. It says, there was no new fact or set of facts that stimulated this major change. Rather, it was simply the simple reality that gay people started to kick up a fuss, and they gained a voice that began to make themselves heard. Next slide. In Chapter 4, Diagnostic Policies, Homosexuality, American Psychiatric, Dr. Bayer says that the first attack by homosexual activists against the APA began in 1970 out in San Francisco. That's why they call San Francisco the home of homosexuality, because this is where it happened at. It says homosexual activists decided to disrupt the conference by interrupting speakers and shouting down and ridiculing psychiatrists who viewed homosexuality as a mental disorder. In other words, they got violent with the psychiatrists. And in 1971, homosexual activist Frank Kameny worked with the Gay Liberation Front Collective to demonstrate against the APA's convention. At the 1971 conference, Kameny grabbed a microphone and yelled, psychiatry is the enemy incarnate. That's how they feel. Like the white man, homosexuals, to call that the enemy incarnate, meaning we have to fight that with everything that we have. Every bit of power, every bit of, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's monetary, no matter what it is, that's the enemy incarnate. Psychiatry has waged the relentless war of extermination against us, and you may take this as a declaration of war. This is what homosexuals said when it came to fighting. This is how you know that homosexuals are the most violent individuals that can ever exist on the planet. Because now, and here's another thing. Like, homosexual is just supposed to be a lifestyle, right? Like, okay, I'll give you an example. In Israelite culture, you can have more than one woman. Now, we ain't making no rally or an agenda to force anybody to accept that way of life. Now, homosexuality, if it's just about who you want to have sex with, why would they have to make it something that everybody has to accept? Because everybody knows that it's wrong, including the homosexual. A homosexual knows that being a homosexual is wrong. And they know that if they step outside and walk out as a homosexual, they're going to be looked upon and frowned upon, and the guilt is going to be too much. So what do they have to do? Make it acceptable to everyone else. And that psychology is not different. That's the drug dealer does the same thing. You know why a drug dealer hands out turkeys on Thanksgiving or builds a park in the neighborhood?
It's conscious.
So that, thank you, that's perfect.
Conscious.
So that his conscience is clear from all the murders and ravaging and homes that he's destroyed. So on this side, they will violently wage war so that they can clear their conscience. So when they want to walk down with another man, because they're forcing you to accept it, then their conscience can be clear as well. Give me the next slide. It says homosexuals they forged, meaning they lied, which you shouldn't be surprised. Y'all know these is white folk. White man is the devil. If I ain't tell y'all, let me remind y'all again. The white man, you see how I would say forged? There ain't nothing the white man ain't forged. Even if against his own people. Like these is white psychiatrists that said it was a mental illness. And the white man ain't, the gay white man ain't having that either. So it says they forged APA credentials and gained access to the exhibit areas in the conference. They challenged anyone who claimed homosexuals needed to be cured. Meaning to tell a homosexual that he has to be cured, you cannot say that. Even though if you check the numbers, 95% of every homosexual has been molested, male or female. And that's why they in turn molest other kids. Anybody familiar with Jason Collins, a homosexual? He used to play for the Nets and the Wizards. He wasn't really that good, so you might not know him. Jason Collins, he was a homosexual, and he said he didn't really realize he was a homosexual until he went on trips with his uncle up to the cabin. You know what happened on the trips to the cabin? His uncle molested him. And because he molested him, he thinking because kids don't know how to handle that. That's what makes homosexuality like a death penalty offense. Because to take that innocency from a child is one of the worst things that you could ever do. And then how does that child grab that innocency back? They can't. Like once you rape a child, which that's what it is, once you rape a child, that's something that they can never get back. And that's why they struggle with that mentally sometimes for the rest of their lives. For the rest of their lives, they battle in that demon that's in them. And the only thing that they can come up with is, I was born this way. Because that's the only way that I can handle the situation. So it says, committee found an ally inside the APA named Kent Robinson who helped the homosexual activist present his demand. And in 1972, homosexual activists were permitted to set up display booths. So what the psychiatric people started doing was compromising. And that's all the white man ever wants. If he sees that you can compromise anything in your stance, he know that he can break you. Which is why in the Israelite School of UPK we don't compromise anything, because the white men know that he can't break us. And you need men like that. Like you need pillars that can actually stand for something that won't bend or break. Because once they let them set up the booth, they said, I'm proud, gay, and healthy. Isaiah 29:16, if you go to the next slide, says, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. The potter is the one that makes or forms the clay in whatever form he wants. In this scenario, the Most High is the potter. And when he formed a man, he formed a woman and made a perfect union. That's why a man has a rod and a woman has a box. That's the cleanest way I could say it without being too vulgar. That's why they have it that way. And that's a perfect connection. A man and a man is not a perfect connection. It's imperfect. A woman and a woman is not a perfect connection. It's an imperfection. Now, it says people can classify themselves as heterosexual, homosexual, asexual, and metrosexual. We're going to get into Cam Newton a little later. It says there are endless sexual orientations under the sun, and now pedophilia can be added to that. Because if you can be a homosexual and they could declassify that as a mental illness, you know pedophiles coming right after that. That's why America has to burn, because when you allow this, now your child won't be safe. If you think about transgender, everybody familiar with transgenders, right? Right. And how they got to open up the bathrooms, right? Do you know how violent that is? That means that a man who's a straight, I ain't going to say whether he's transgender or not, a predator that's a straight man, that's a pedophile, can now lie and say, no, I'm a transgender, I don't identify as a man, I identify as a woman, and then go into the girls' bathroom and rape children or rape women right in there. Like that's what America opens the door to. It says in the 5th edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the American study says gay people are not born that way. This came out, I think, a couple months ago. And what's good about that is because, and the reason why when I read, I'm going to read a part of it that I said, the issue of sexual orientation has been a very controversial issue since nations in the West began to recognize gays, lesbians, bisexual, and transgender. When they say nations in the West, it's only one nation, that's America. That's the nation. And that nation, when it allows something, it's like everybody follows the beat of that nation, which is America. So now, because America, I'll take the West out, because America begins to recognize gays, lesbians, bisexual, and transgenders, the controversy came out was, are you born that way? Right? So it says an important part of the LGBT debate is the belief that sexual orientation is predetermined by biology. Now, when you think about biology, when a baby is in the mother's stomach, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? The sex, right? Now, the biology would be whatever sex is determined. If it has a penis growing or if it has a vagina growing, then the biology just told you what that child was, right? That's all the science that you need. We shouldn't even need none of this. But when you have an agenda by homosexuals, you have to actually go through great lengths to prove that this is wrong. Just like I got to do this lecture. This is my third lecture on homosexuality. I swear, why did the Most High choose me to speak about this subject? I'll never know, but that's what he did. But this is my third lecture on this, and I shouldn't have to do 3 lectures on whether homosexuality is wrong, whether child molestation is wrong. But we live in a society where it's allowed to proliferate. It says, therefore, if a person has no choice over whether to be gay or not, society cannot demand that he or she become straight. That's the battle. That's the debate here. It says this is a sound and reasonable argument. Indeed, society cannot force people to change from something that they have no control over. Right? Give me the next slide. On the other hand, the born that way argument has been disputed by some people. Can you clear that up a little bit? Cut this out. I'm sorry about that. I can't read that there. I try to read it as best as I can. So I can for that. It says, I can't read that part, but it says, published in the New Journal in Atlantis has challenged the belief that human sexuality and gender identity are determined by biology and remains fixed. The New Atlantis Journal focuses on political, social, and ethical ramifications of technological advantage. The study carried out by 2 researchers from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore revealed that there is no scientific proof of sexual orientation being fixed. So the LBGT asked the science to go ahead and look and see if he could be born that way. They said there's no scientific proof of sexual orientation being fixed. The researchers said the objective of their study is to draw attention to the public and mental health problems of the LGBT. Meaning even the doctors realize that there's a problem when you're pushing an agenda to make everybody accept you be lesbian, gay, or bisexual. On a grand scale, this is just sexual orientation if you was to dumb it down to the lowest level that it is. This is just a sexual orientation. And if that was your sexual preference, why do I have to accept it? Why does everybody have to agree with that form of lifestyle? So it says, the study cautioned against drastic medical treatment for transgender children. Because what they also do is if a child just says, I think I'm a boy. Like any girls ever grew up and you was considered like a tomboy? Like if you went through a phase, now you ain't really a tomboy, you just wearing clothes that girls didn't wear. Now what they're saying you now, if you see your daughter dressing like that, she's a man. And so now we got to go through steps. That's why I'm saying drastic medical treatment. Because what they're pushing on our children is if you see your boy switching, or if you see your boy with your woman's shoes, come get the medical treatment to turn him into a woman. Because that's what he is. That's why they're doing the research on that. It says, according to the study, regardless of its political worth, the born this way notion by the LGBT community is not backed up by sufficient scientific data. Dr. Mayer said many people who contributed to this study, this is the heavy part, many people who contributed to this study asked to not be identified. Why do you think that's the case? If you speak out against homosexuality, they will ostracize you, like I said earlier. That's why I found out in Atlanta they got a rap group called Migos, right? Anybody familiar with them? I don't know too much, you know, all that. I don't get with all that. So now, but what I will say about them is that they had some performance with Katy Perry, right? And in that performance with Katy Perry, they wanted to bring a transsexual out on the stage with them. And the Migos said, we're not doing that. Now I want to see what happens to the Migos after that. Because usually when you stand up against homosexuality, they shut you down. That's why he said the study asks not to be identified. Even this place here, Teasing Quotes, I want to give them a hand clap for doing the lecture here. Because even they face a issue. Like when the brothers, big up Captain Ratazai, newly raised, that brother hand clap too, newly raised Captain Ratazai. When they was out here promoting the lecture, Tazaryach was informed by the owner of this place that the mayor's office said we couldn't do this lecture here. But they still did the lecture here. That's why when you stand there, that's why they're saying they asked to not be identified. Because if you start saying you want to stand up against homosexuality, whatever they can do to stop you, that's what they'll do. So they didn't even want to be identified. It said that the anonymity they requested is to protect them from a potential backlash from those who would disagree with the study. He admitted the study may stir controversy from both pro and anti-LGBT people. It says some feared an angry response from the more militant elements of the LGBT. You know where they learned that militancy from? From the back history when they said it's an act of war if you don't accept it from the white boy Frank Kameni. Give me the next slide, please. Ways to manipulate homosexuality to the public opinion. Because now, if they want to make everybody agree with homosexuality, they got to come up with different ways to allow you to have a level of comfortability with that agenda. So now, it says anyone who is concerned about the influence of the homosexual agenda on reshaping traditional values must become intimately familiar with the major tactics that homophiles commonly employ. So let's look at some of the things. It says homophile strategists are very adept at manipulating public opinion with an arsenal of tactics that are based upon deception and half-truths. It says exploit the victim status. What is the number one thing? They say, oh, they're gay bashing if you don't allow me to do this. If you don't hire me for this job, it's because I'm a homosexual. When you should have a right, like black people can't get hired just because we black. So much so, what did they have to incorporate that they fought for? Affirmative action. Did they not create affirmative actions to make you do that? Now, are we still battling that agenda? We're still battling that. But gays, you can't even do that now. They mastered it. Like the white man, he mastered how to become a real victim, even though he's not a victim. It says use the sympathetic media, confuse and neutralize churches, which we're going to get into that, especially in Atlanta. Atlanta got the Vision Mega Church. I went to the website. I ain't going to tell you. I'm going to remember Kadazai. He get on me because I usually jump the information sometimes. I'm going to try to stay on point. So now, it says slander and stereotype of heterosexuals, which we're going to get into as well. And bait and switch. Give me the next slide. It says one reason these tactics have worked so well is that homophile activists have succeeded in marketing harmless and friendly image of their movement. They usually use kids' movies. They'll usually use a female, or they'll have someone dressed up as a woman, and we'll accept it. Like Martin TV show is a great TV show, right? Everybody like Martin. Martin, the whole thing, right? We accept Shanae, even though Shanae is a man. And there are people, and here's the heavy part, when homosexuals want to act like somebody, who do they act like? Who knows? The black woman. They emulate them. Like they've created a monster in the black woman, and when a gay man wants to go off, I don't care if the gay man is black, white, Chinese, or whatever, they emulate that black woman that they made a monster out of. What's the gangster side of it? Anybody seen The Wire? Who's the gangster in The Wire? Who's the killer in The Wire? Omar. Was he not a homo? Nobody cared that he was a homo. He got the Ephraimite cat doing God knows what with the Puerto Rican brother, but all they know is he got that shotgun and he robbed niggas. And so because he robbed them, they look at him like he's something. This is a media portrayal of your acceptance of it, to where you're accepted in the media. It says in any campaign to win over the public, gays must be portrayed as victims in need of protections so that straights will be inclined to reflect the adoption of the role of protector. So when you hear stories about gays being attacked, because you look at them as soft and sweet or whatever, you initially want to come to their defense and then come to help them. The purpose of the victim imagery is to make straights feel very uncomfortable, to jam them with a shame of self-righteous pride that will orderly accompany reward their anti-gay belligerence, meaning I want to stop the straight man from being gay, to being against gays, so I have to present myself as a victim so he'll have a sense of compassion. So if gays are always being attacked, I'll develop a compassion and just say, no, don't do that. They gay, I understand they're gay, but you ain't got to bother them. Once you compromise that bin, that's what the gay man is looking for. America is looking for that compromise, and once they get one compromise, they'll get two, and they'll get three. That's what in the 70s, the first compromise was letting them set up that booth. Once they set up that booth, then they got them to remove it from being a mental illness. And then you have, in 2017, we got to come down to Atlanta to have this lecture. Then it says, the public should be persuaded that gays are victims of circumstance, that they no more choose their sexual orientation than they say their height, skin color, talents, or limitations. Gays should be portrayed as victims of prejudice. Give me the next slide. What bothers me about that is every time I hear prejudice, I think about what black people go through, because we can't hide that. A gay man, if he wanted to, he could make himself dress differently, that's not gay. He can make himself walk differently, that's not gay. He can make himself sound differently, that's not gay. If you black all day. You can't hide that. You Puerto Rican all day. You can't hide that. It says an analysis of the FBI statistic, because they say that gays are victims of hate crimes. An analysis of the FBI statistics committed against homosexuals during the time period of 2000 to 2008 shows that the probability of any individual homosexual being a victim of a hate crime during his or her entire life is slightly more than 1%. So when they tell you that there's gay bashing against gays, it's a lie. Because this is from 2000 to 2008. Only less than 1% a gay person has been the victim of a hate crime. That's number one. It says, interestingly, gays are more likely to commit hate crimes against straights. What did the guy Frank Committee say? If you stop the gay agenda, it is an act of war. The only people that are in war is gays against heterosexuals, because it's something that they're forcing upon us. We're not forcing them to be that way, but they want to force us to accept their way. According to the FBI, there are 3.9% hate crimes committed by each million heterosexuals annually against homosexuals, and there are 4.4% hate crimes committed by homosexuals against heterosexuals. So homosexuals are more violent than heterosexuals when it comes to the whole comparison, when they say that we gay bash or etc. like that. It says violence against homosexuals by others get all the press. Like that terrorist when they blew up their Miami spot. Was that in Miami? Orlando? I like that me myself personally. It's like, you know, when they did that, it said, but that get all the press. Like that get all the press in the world. It do not get no press, right? But it's interesting to note that the great majority of anti-gay violence is committed by other gays. The National Coalition of Anti-Violence Program is the leading tracker of violence against gays in the United States. And according to their statistics, 83% of all violence committed against gays is carried out by other gays. 83%. So when they telling you that there's a bashing of straight people against gay people, it's a lie. And you know why? And this is why. The 83% is due to domestic situations. Meaning domestic violence of two men being together. We was in Atlanta at the camp. There was two gay men arguing about the fight at the camp. At the camp. That's when they're saying domestic situation. What's that basketball player, Shireen Griner? I always mess up her name.
Yeah, Griner.
Griner? She had a domestic violence against her significant other as well. Because gays are the most violent. When you have a mental defect that's not being treated. Like anybody, if you are bipolar, right? If you bipolar and you don't get that treated, you're a nutcase. You're crazy. You quick to go off and set it off. So now imagine being a homosexual and having that mental defect and it's not being treated at all. And you're allowed to walk around and be that way. You'll be violent as well. And it says this does not even count the gay on gay violence, meaning outside the home, meaning this 83% is just in the domestic violence. That doesn't count the other gay violence that take place as well. Give me the next slide. The CDC announced a stunning statistic about all the gay and bisexual blacks in the USA will be diagnosed with the virus that causes AIDS during their lifetime. That's half. Half of the black race will be diagnosed with AIDS during their lifetime. If y'all don't understand that this is a time to come back to the Most High, I don't know what else to tell you, because that's your only protection. Your protection ain't, your protection is your husband, but if your husband ain't following the law, statute, commandments of God, you'll both die. Whether it be AIDS or anything else. It says, presented this week at a conference in Boston, a study by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention found that 1 in 6 gay and bisexual men would be diagnosed with HIV. That's 1 in 6 gay, that's regular. But 1 in 2 for blacks, 1 in 4 for Hispanics, 1 in 11 in whites. Let this number stand out. There's 1 in 11 in whites. The reason why I say let that stand out is because, again, there's more white gay people than there are black people in America. There's more white gay people than black people in America, but only 1 in 11 get AIDS from them. They wasn't given that law to not be a homosexual. I wish all white people were homosexuals, because then they stop making babies and then they die and go away. I just don't want my people to be homosexuals. I'm sorry. It says, in contrast, the rate of infection for heterosexual men is 1 in 473. So it's better to be straight than to be gay. All right? It says black residents are disproportionately affected by this virus in Georgia. Because again, I told y'all that the title of the lecture is Make Atlanta Straight Again, but I have to give you everything. Because of course, our people ain't just in Atlanta, they're everywhere. All right? It says black residents are disproportionately affected by the virus in Georgia. For example, in 2013, black Georgians accounted for 66% of the people living with HIV in the state. So again, with 10 to 12% of the population, 66% of us have HIV in Georgia. Though they only comprise of 31% of Georgia's population. In contrast, 56% of those infected with the HIV nationwide were black in 2013. Overall, African Americans are by far the most affected racial or ethnic group, within a lifetime risk of 1 in 20 for men, 1 in 132 for whites, 1 in 48 for women, to 1 in 880 for whites. Give me the next slide. Downtown Atlanta is as bad as Zimbabwe. Y'all heard that? Y'all damn near like them stinking ham mice. Sloppy. It says, in a statement from Dr. Carlos, co-director of Emory University Center for AIDS Research. Since the start of a routine testing program in 2013, the nationally renowned medical center, Grady Hospital, has diagnosed an average of 2 or 3 patients with HIV every day. This is why we have to push this agenda of not being homosexuals. Like, if there were more people doing this, then we wouldn't have to do it as much. The reason why it looks like we speak about it all the time, because we're the only ones speaking up against it.
Only one.
Everybody else is like, it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be lesbian, you can be free and be whatever you want, but we're the ones that's consistently dying from it. It's like applauding drug dealers. Like, we applaud drug dealers to no end, even though the community is consistently dying from it. It's almost like we love death more than we love life. And when you speak about things that bring forth life, nobody wants to hear that. It's like all we want to hear is what will bring forth death. In 2014, it was reported that Atlanta had the 5th highest rate of new HIV infections. Atlanta area zip codes with the highest HIV rates are all these area codes: 30302, 389, and 10. Other data and studies suggest that the southern region of the United States as a whole presents the highest risk of contracting HIV. Men who have sex with men had a 1 in 6 risk of getting the disease, while heterosexual men, again, 1 in 473. The issue is particularly acute for young gay and bisexual men, because that's the target now. The reason why young men are targeted, because that's the young, so like the youth is supposed to be the ones that's supposed to carry the traditions of the old men or the aged men. So they're the young warriors or the young fighters that are out to carry that tradition. So if we can turn the youth gay, then we ain't got to worry. And once we turn, like, I don't know what generation it's going to get to. I keep using the drug analogy because there ain't no greater drug dealer than the white man. Straight up. Right. He's so good at it. He gets the primary product, get you to sell it for him, lock you up for it, you come out and then sell it for him again. That's how good the white man is. Knowing he gonna lock you up for it. And then once he legalized weed, he just gonna get rid of you as drug dealers all the way. All the way. So that's why I use that same metaphor. Because we're using homosexuality, which is a white man's lifestyle. We're following it, and every time we follow it, we're dying. We're the ones getting destroyed. All right? You can go. I don't think I need anything else, so you can give me the next slide. Now, entertainment also distorts our true reality of life. It says, why is so much of America threatened by a masculine, powerful black male? When y'all see that, brother, y'all know why we rock these beards and these braids? Like it's a representation of, number one, taking your culture back. Like that beard you got, grow that beard. Like you look feminine without a beard on your face. Now for those that can't grow, of course, if you can't grow it, I ain't talking about you, of course. But even if you can't grow it, there's still a sense of masculinity on you. Because it's something that you just biologically cannot grow. But if you could grow your beard, that scares the white man. Because it means that you're not conforming to him. You understand? The minute that they want to accept, anybody see that movie Hancock? With Will Smith? One of the gayest movies I've ever seen. But I'm going to tell you something. You see all these different superhero movies, right? And they allow that superhero to be as wild as he want, raw as he want, as rough as he want. Hancock, when he was a nigga, was as wild as he want, rough as he want, did whatever he want. But you know what he wanted? He wanted acceptance from the white man. He wanted them to not look at him like a monster, right? And the only reason they was looking at him as a monster is because he wasn't conforming to their rules, because he wasn't doing what they said. He's a god. He's a superhero. He's all powerful. Now, what did he have to do to get accepted? He had to shave that beard off. He didn't even have a thick beard like I had. He had a little beard. He had to shave all his hair off, put a tight-ass uniform, right? I mean, it couldn't get no tighter. Now, this Will Smith, he didn't care. He was a faggot, you know. But he put that tight uniform on and then took orders from those that are lesser than him. Right. And then he became acceptable. That's why when you put that beard, that culture, that manhood that you're supposed to have, you initially become a threat. That's why the media has a mission to get rid of that. Everybody with me? Now, Mark 3:27, I brought this out early when it says, no man can enter into a strong man's house. Black man, you are the strongest thing on the planet. That's right. And when I'm saying black, I'm talking about all my black. I mean black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. Y'all are the most strongest thing on the planet, and you're the threat to this place. You're the engine to this place. Like America moves off the sweat of black people, period. The left-hand side or the right-hand side. We feed this place. And the only way that they can destroy that is if they bind up the strong man. And then they can spoil the whole entire house. The whole entire house gets destroyed. When you look at these black neighborhoods, look at all of them and see how much of them don't have a daddy in the house. And then you'll see them destroyed. And then do the research for the ones that do have the daddy in the house. And you'll see how much better they are. Or have the daddy in their life and see how much better that they are. And if your man, if y'all break up or don't get together, don't use child support as a weapon against him. Because child support is not about raising that kid. Money can never raise a kid, ever. Y'all see Whitney Houston's kids? They ain't raised right. Will Smith kids, the daughter is the son and the son is the daughter right now. Right. And they got all the money in the world. Money does not raise a kid's morals raise a kid. When you got a father that's in your father's life, I used this in my last lecture, my daddy, I was afraid of him. Even though he was a drug addict. My mama go find him, whatever he said did, I did. It was like law. It was like God was saying it. And he was in a low state. You put that father in the house, he would fix everything. Chris Rock made a joke that one time when he was like, that ain't nothing like a daddy. The mama be say, you better do it, you better do it. He's like, so what? I ain't listening to him. She say, I'm going to tell your daddy, and you do it right away. You know why she's saying tell your daddy? Because she knows that mentioning his name is what gives her the power to tell that child what to do. That unison of the black man and the black woman has to come into play. Like we allow the white man, I always look at the black man and black woman, not to sidebar from this, but I always look at the black man and black woman to have a great divide. And that great divide is what they call white supremacy. There ain't really nothing that the black man did to the black woman or the black woman did to the black man, but we both listened to that white man and allowed him to divide us. If you take that feminist movement, or you take what the black man does to the black woman, it's all because we listen to the so-called white man. We have to stop listening to him, because that's why our house is destroyed. It says the feminization of black males through mass media. It says everywhere you look up throughout rap, Hollywood, and elsewhere in pop culture, there are constant images of black males being stripped of the threatening bravado and uber macho image that was once prominent throughout actual hip hop, which also permeated through professional sports in Hollywood. Like when you look at back in the 70s and 80s, the brothers, the basketball players, they looked like men when you saw them in regular clothes. When you look at hip hop, well, not hip hop in the early 80s. The hip hop in the early 80s, you know, what, Flash, the Furious Five? Yeah. Flash and the Furious Five is your Slim Thug today. But thank the Lord for Public Enemy, you know what I mean? So they brought about a sense of manhood that was allowed to permeate in the 90s. And if you think about the music in the 80s and 90s, it always dealt with the heartbeat of the ghetto. Public Enemy, KRS-One, all of them, whether you agree with all of their different ideologies, it was all about the black man recognizing we have to come out this condition. And then the white man sort of threatened that. Because again, the music, the media, the television, it all teaches us. If you watch TV, you're learning something all the time. And so the white man said, I got to remove that. So he replaced that with feminine rappers. Or feminine rappers and masculine women rappers is what he replaced it. I remember that, what's that song? I don't know that girl, Young Ma? I remember when I heard the song on the radio, I thought it was a dude. And then when I saw the video, I couldn't even listen to that song no more. Talking about she getting head, excuse my language, like how can a woman get head? I don't understand like that. So it says, there is a strategic and deliberate effort by the powers that be who control the media, the music industry, and the feminist group to emasculate men and masculate women, specifically the African American, to reduce our roles and images and create a new class of society. The new class, you give me the next slide, the new class of society is the women, the men act like women and the women act like men. We can never get ahead in that role.